Hi, I'm Shelley Maurer,
And I'm Cher Emmerich. Welcome to Life Lessons from Pickleball.
where we engage with pickleball players from around the world about life on and off the court.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome, everyone, to Life Lessons from Pickleball. We're so happy to have you joining with us today, and we are so delighted to have with us Dr. Erik Korem, PhD. Erik, you are the founder and CEO of E17, an app that provides pickleball athletes with unparalleled resources, and you host the Blueprint podcast. And we definitely want to hear about both of those, of course. But even before pickleball, you were a high performance pioneer in sports science.
Yeah, yes. First of all, thank you so much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. I love talking pickleball and making new friends. So this is a blast. I spent about 16 years working in the NFL and in college sports. I started as a traditional strength and conditioning coach, training athletes of various sports. I've trained over 26 different sports. And it's kind of cool right now because the Olympics are going on. I also worked with professional track and field sprinters for about 14 years. Several of them won gold medals. So this is always a fun time of year to kind of reminisce about all that.
Awesome.
But about 2011, I started tracking athletes in games using wearable devices. This is before the Apple Watch existed, and it wasn't like Fitbit on a wrist. We literally were putting devices on our players in their pads.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was doing this at Florida State, and these devices, it was like the size of a deck of cards, and they connected to GPS satellites and had all sorts of crazy telemetry, like accelerometers and gyroscopes, all this crazy stuff in there. And we were able to really understand what was happening on the football field for the first time. How much these players were moving, how fast they were sprinting. And it was interesting because at the time, the space program had just been cut. And I hired a former NASA propulsion engineer to help me kind of derive meaning from the information. And we were able to help our team perform better, and we helped lower their injury rate by 88% in 1 year.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I know, it was crazy. And our team went on to win a championship. And after that season, the NFL flew in all these people and were like, hey, what the heck's going on here? And it opened a multi-billion-dollar market for sports wearables. So now every NFL game or college game, almost every single sport in the United States now is tracked using similar devices. And so my career kind of took off in that direction and was able to do a lot of fun things and learn a lot and be around some great folks and just trying to help players be healthy and perform better.
So,
Amazing.
what did you do? You said 88%
Yeah.
injury decrease. So, what data was the most important and what did you change?
Yeah. It was kind of, well, first of all, nobody had ever quantified what the game was. So it'd be like saying, let's go run a long race, but nobody knew that it was a marathon and it was what, 26.2 miles. Which one of you is a triathlete? I forgot.
Shelley.
Yeah.
Shelly, yeah. Is marathon 26.2? Is that right? Or
Yeah.
26? Yeah. So imagine just like, oh, we're going to go run a long race, but you never knew how long it was. Well, we were finally able to show like, okay, a wide receiver would run like 7,000 to 8,000 yards in a game, and they were sprinting several thousand high speed yards, where a lineman would only sprint like 60 to 80 yards, but they were enduring a lot of like very brutal, like impacts that were in a very small space. And so everybody was practicing and training the same, really training the same.
Oh.
So they needed to be trained differently for the demands of the sport. So we could kind of work ourselves backwards. Because if you know I got to run 26.2 and you got 16 weeks to get ready for it, you can start
Yeah.
building a training program. So that
Right.
was number one. It sounds very common sense, but like nobody had ever tracked it all. And
Sure.
so that was number one. We were able to then start looking at our practices and be like, how were those preparing us for games? And then how were our training camps structured? So were we overdoing it? Were we underdoing it? And then we used some very novel methods to kind of get early warning indicators that somebody may pull a hamstring or a groin muscle. And so this real thought process of sports science and high performance, we were able to kind of bring together sports medicine and the strength coaches and the football coaches. So everybody was operating under the same lens. And so we would go, hey, so-and-so looks like they may have a issue with their groin. Let's get them over to the athletic training room. They would do soft
Wow.
tissue work. And then we'd be like, hey, coach so-and-so, we need to dial back this person's practice reps today to make sure that they don't hurt themselves. And I was very fortunate to work for a head coach at the time that was very innovative, and he put it all on the line and it paid off. Now, we also had unbelievable athletes, but the year before we were really, really injured and weren't able to live up to our potential. And so my viewpoint on sports really changed on like, hey, let's not just create programs towards a target that we can't define very well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, my job I ended up going to the University of Kentucky and running performance there. And I got a doctorate degree studying sleep and stress resilience.
Whoa.
And looking at how we could actually measure this with unique devices and trying to create a more robust and adaptable athlete.
Sleep and stress, resilience or resistance?
Resilience. Like, how can you be more resilient under stress, physical and mental? Something that's kind of helpful right now, don't you think?
Oh
Yes,
my
very
gosh.
helpful.
Talk about timing. So
Yeah.
what's the answer?
Well, you got to build more capacity. So you hear a lot of people saying you need to manage stress. Well, that's kind of a fallacy. You can't manage stress. Like, if you were to, for instance, on that show, your friend that got cancer, was that something they could have managed? No, it just happened to them. Sometimes you drive your car and you get rear-ended, or the stock market does something crazy, or we're in a political season. It's all haywire right now. I can't manage all that. What I can do is I can build the capacity for more stress with less cost to me so that I'm not burning out and I'm able to thrive, adapt, and get better.
Wow.
And sleep apparently is a part of that.
It's a big part. There's really 5 pillars: sleep, exercise, mental fitness, nutrition, and living in community and healthy relationships. And the scientific literature is pretty clear that these 5 things, when done appropriately into like certain benchmarks, improve our capacity to adapt to stress and to thrive.
Well, that's fascinating because as you're saying that, pickleball meets a lot of those needs, doesn't it?
Yes.
How did you
Go ahead.
get into pickleball?
It's a great question. Okay, so I left my career in sports and I wanted to start a company where we could take wearable data from the average consumer with an Apple Watch or Fitbit, whatever, and create ultra personalized health and wellness solutions for exercise, recovery, and mental health. And basically built on these 5 tenets of building adaptive capacities, we called it, helping people be more resilient to stress. So we spent a couple years building the tech, raised a little bit of capital, and we launched it in the market last September, and it was growing pretty good. But to be quite honest, it was really hard to break out in this noisy, crowded space without like having tons of venture capital. And a friend of mine who helped Steve Kuhn, he was Steve Kuhn's chief of staff, the guy that started Major League Pickleball and Duper, reached out to me. We went through a program in 2019 called the Presidential Leadership Scholars Program, and that really changed my life. And he called me. He's like, Erik, you need to focus on pickleball. I'm like, pickleball? Like, I'd heard a friend talk about it. I'm like, I didn't even know what it was. I'd heard about it, but I'd never seen it. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, just trust me. Look at pickleball. There is nobody helping these people. There's a lot of injuries right now. There's a lot of opportunity to help folks. So I was like, okay, I'll take a look at it. So I started looking at the data and watching the sport. First of all, I started going out and I'm like, man, I kind of like this. This is fun. It's like softball in a sense compared to baseball. It's faster, more engaging. And then I noticed that like even I could step on the court and quickly pick up a paddle and be decently okay, right? I could get the ball over and we could all have fun, right?
Yeah.
So very, very fortunate that my friend introduced me to Tito Machado with Duper, the CEO. And he looked at our tech and said, hey, you guys should focus on pickleball. We'll partner with you guys. So me and my team spent about 4 months looking at all the problems in the sport. And what we noticed is this is an emerging sport. It's blowing up.
Yeah.
And I think everybody that's listening to this would agree with me, but that this is a sport, but people aren't treating it like a sport. Most people, if you kind of look at the demographics, like the recreational players, and they just kind of go step on the court, and then you wonder why we're having, $250 to $500 million in injuries. People blow out their Achilles. I was on a podcast recently, guy blew out both biceps.
Ouch.
You see a lot of soft tissue injuries. It's not because the game is inherently dangerous. It's because you need to basically do some fundamental things to help you stay healthy and on the court. Like if you wanted to run a marathon or do a triathlon, there's certain things you have to do to keep yourself healthy so you can actually enjoy the event.
Yeah.
And so we basically took a bunch of things and put that on top of our existing technology. So we help people know exactly what they need to do before they go on the court, from warm-ups, even mental fitness tools to help them like hone in on their focus, to cool downs when they're done, to daily mobility training. We have like, if your elbow hurts, we have like a 12-week program in there from Dr. Kyle Richmond on pickleball elbow, your neck, your hip. We went through like all the things that would help a pickleball player survive and thrive, really. Customized resistance training. And because of that, a major university, which we'll be able to announce soon, like a very prominent university, just funded a study with us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because we were able to quantify the physical and mental wellness benefits of playing pickleball. So this is about to be announced. Like, it's going to be huge.
Congratulations.
And,
Wait a minute. Even though we don't know the university, we know it's going to be big. Thank you. That's for sharing that. That's real exciting.
I know. I'm pumped. It was funny because it was one of our E17 users. She's a neuroscientist at a university. And she's like, Erik, I'd really like to do research on the well-being benefits because, to your point, Cher, there's so many boxes that pickleball ticks off.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've looked at the longevity research, but the two sports that have the greatest impact on longevity are racket sports and running. And the reason we think these are recreational sports is because of the coordination involved, specifically racket sports. There's coordination, there's the hand-eye part of it, there's the balance, the stability, the high-intensity exercise, plus the low-intensity aerobic component.
Right.
And the difference between tennis and pickleball, though, and I'm preaching to the choir here, is the community nature of the game.
Yeah.
So now you combine a game that has all of these benefits. And when you play, you're typically out there for an hour. And if you play doubles, it's like low intensity zone 2 aerobic exercise, which is great for cardiovascular fitness. If you do singles, now you're getting some really high heart rates. Yeah. You're doing things like sprinting and decelerating, but you do it with a community because you're so close. Like, I think it was a kitchen line to kitchen line is what? Is it 17 feet?
Yeah, not even maybe.
Yeah, from no volley zone. Yeah, and so like even like when you're bantering back and forth between each point, and then people are hanging out, and so that's the thing that makes this such a special game, and people are finding community and friendship, and then they want to keep playing, and so it's just I think a lot of people are starting to see that this is going to be the gateway for health and wellness for a lot of people.
So happy to hear you say that as a professional doctor, PhD in this. That is certainly the way Shelley and I feel about it. Yes. And one of the other qualities that I was thinking is, and maybe they do this in tennis, but in pickleball, typically, the person that is your opponent in this game is now your partner in the next game. And so you change your role. That person isn't always your opponent. They become your partner. And so you can't just hold one feeling about anybody. It's really great to have that mix.
Yeah. I mean, conflict resolution, There's
Mm.
so many, like, that was just the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. We do a lot of social media content on Instagram, and we've been growing really fast. What's interesting to me is every time you make a post on social media, it's like a human experiment. You see what people react to. And
Right.
what's interesting is our best content has been, one was on warm up. It was a really funny opening, and then we really quickly explained how to do a neuromuscular warm up. But then the second one, or not second one, the next big cluster is all on mental performance skills.
Hmm.
Focus, attention, regulation, all the things that help you. Think about, like, every time you go on the court,
Mhm.
you get to exercise your ability to control your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
to go from high to low really quick, to
Yep.
process and move forward, to be a good teammate, to have compassion, like the jokes around, like,
Yeah.
Yourself and each other.
Yeah.
stop apologizing, like
I know.
there's
Stop
always
saying you're
that person.
sorry.
Yeah, stop saying you're sorry. Well, I mean, these are all things that, like, when I sit down and try to make content, like, we have a really cool team of psychologists and nutritionists, all worked at the highest levels in sport. And I'm always like, hey, how would we solve this problem for pickleball? So we have, like, this ongoing list of all these really cool things that we're trying to teach people. And I don't know, I think it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool to be in the earliest of days.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even hit the J curve yet, I think, with the growth, because we
No,
don't
I
have
can.
enough places for people to play yet.
Hey,
We can't
but
That's
we
the
can't fulfill the
challenge.
courts
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. But like you said, that mental stuff, I was listening to some of your podcasts, and like
They're
one
excellent.
that
Thank
the
you.
one that that really caught me, that was helpful, that I even thought about today, is when you make a mistake on the
Mm,
court, and you gave just three things. You said release,
mm-hmm.
reset, and refocus.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me, you gave me tips like release, like hit yourself with the paddle, or just think of a quick release,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just do a quick reset. What am I going to focus on next point? And then, just refocus and move on. I just love that. So yeah,
Yeah.
just all those like quick little mental tips and things that you
Dr.
guys are
Arbach,
giving are great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's
Dr. Arba.
awesome.
Yeah.
He was the head of wellness and development for the Toronto Raptors.
Wow.
Worked at the University of Arizona, University of North Texas, and we met. Gosh, trying to remember how we even met now. I've known him for so long, and I brought him this pickleball thing, and he's like, "Dude, I want in. This is so cool. Let's do this."
We all want to
And
do it.
yeah, and then I sent him a paddle recently from one of our new partners, and, like, I don't know. Now we're starting to do some really cool stuff. We're putting together I've never talked about this publicly, but this is kind of a side project I'm on. We're putting together a pickleball wellness retreat where I'm going to bring in all of these leading experts on all these different subjects. And we're going to have, like, world-class coaching for a weekend, plus, like, mental performance stuff. And we're trying to do it in such a way that you can use it on pickleball, and then you can transfer things to use in your life.
Uh-huh.
That's the perfect combo.
I'm excited to get this out there. We're still working on the finalizing it, but it'll be all the little things. But that's the great thing about pickleball. It's like it brings all these components into something that you can exercise consistently.
Indeed. So
Yeah.
when do you think that wellness weekend or week might happen?
February of 2025.
Okay, next year, early next
Yeah.
year. That's
So
very exciting. You have to let us know so we can get the word out too.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, that's very cool. So the app you're talking about is AIM-7,
Mm-hmm.
and your podcast is the Blueprint.
Yes, ma'am. I
And
started the Blueprint 4 years ago. That was kind of it's a labor of love. You guys know it takes a lot of time and effort. I've never made money on it. I haven't
that's
tried to
okay.
really monetize it, but we distill cutting edge science, leadership, and life skills into, like, 15-minute segments that the average person can have time. Nobody has 3 hours to listen to a podcast, right? That's
Yep.
what I like about yours. It's short. It's
Yep.
like to the point. You walk away feeling good. You've learned something.
Yep.
And we do that around leadership, life skills, and health and wellness, because I think those are kind of all the things you need if you want to live a healthy and fulfilling life.
So true. So true. Wow. So you, in all of this experiences you've had before pickleball, with pickleball, now helping us with your science and being really good pickleball players and having healthy lives. What are some of the life lessons that you've learned on the court that you've taken into your life, or you've learned in life that you're taking onto the court?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, like being an entrepreneur at this stage of my career with 3 young children, you know, I'm 43. I left a really successful career to do something that scares me constantly. And it's been a very hard, I've never been more excited and more frightened at the same time.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know how you hold those two things in your head. And so
I have an app for that.
It's really crazy because like I get to put all of the things that I'm trying to help people with in practice all the time. And I'll just tell you this, not every day is going to be a great day. That's why I hate when people talk about optimization. There's all this stuff about there like biohacking and optimizing. Look, not every day is going to be a 10. That's impossible.
Right.
Otherwise you wouldn't have highs in life, right?
Right.
But the goal is to like slowly elevate your norm and then have minimal perturbations from that. Does that make sense? So you don't have these huge highs and huge lows. And then there's going to be mountaintop experiences in life. But I would say one thing, it's kind of like, or two things you can kind of put together, hope and confidence. You know, you hope for a future that you can't see. You almost can call it faith, right?
Yep.
But then like you actually have to go work, and you have to work hard. And then you have to have confidence that what you're doing is going to pay off. And this pickleball E17 journey has really taught me like to just, you know, put your head down, listen to people. Cause that's the thing. Like when we made the switch to pickleball, totally new world. And so you just have to use both of those ears that you've been given and just listen. And so we listened and listened and listened. And so the version of our app that's out right now is crushing it. Like from a standpoint of like, we have like a 90% retention rate after 30 days. That's insane in the app world.
That's incredible.
Part of it is we're the only solution in the market. And the other part is people really are getting great results. They're feeling better, moving better. But because of all that, we've been able to, we're launching a newer version in September that's beautiful, that looks more like the game of pickleball. When the branding comes out, you'll be like, oh, I see. And we've been able to incorporate new things that people want and they've been asking for. But it's all about like just believing in this future. Okay, we're helping people right now. We're going to really help bring this game forward. We believe we're going to impact people's lives. We're going to help bring communities together. And then you just got to go work hard. And it's kind of like your game, like, right? Like I'll tell you something really humbling. Okay. My family does jujitsu. My wife was an elite athlete in college. She was an All-American softball player, and she's actually going to get her black belt in jiu-jitsu here in January or December.
Awesome.
She's been doing it for like 8 years, and all my kids do it. I had to stop because my shoulder was hurting too bad. Well, our professor, that's what they call him, like your instructor, amazing guy. And obviously I've never beat him at anything. You know, he's like world class, right? Well, now he's into pickleball. And so he's been talking smack on social media and texting me all the time. Well, he gets to play more. I've been drilling, but I don't get to play as much. I'm working on the business. So finally we got to go play last Friday. I lost 3 games to 1, but we had a great time. I'm like, am I ever going to beat this guy? But it's so cool. Here's a former, he's a vet who now has like, I think 6 or 8 jiu-jitsu facilities. He does a lot for veterans and fundraising through the Weedify Association. And he loves pickleball.
Wow.
Like you find, I mean, like the whole world shows up on the pickleball court, right?
Yeah, they do. They do.
And people we would never cross paths with, but for being on the pickleball court.
And then they're your best friends.
And
Yep.
then you're your best friends. That's exactly right. In fact, Shelly and I met on the pickleball court. Very first
Yes.
day, we were each taking a lesson. Very first day of pickleball, and we met. It was just
Really?
fantastic. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how we became friends. And now we have this whole community of amazing women and some men too, who are in the group who are just delightful.
Mm-hmm.
So you were telling us a story right before we started recording about a
Mm,
couple, two people, and I said, "Oh, be sure to share that with our
yeah.
audience."
You meet so many cool people and you kind of get dropped into their lives, right? The first pickleball facility when we were really hardcore, like, are we going to make this pivot or niche into pickleball? Was it January? I drove to a facility in North Houston. It was a good, I was driving from Dallas back to Houston, and I stopped off at this place, and this gentleman was kind enough to welcome me into their facility. And we start chatting, and I'm like, hey, how did you find pickleball? And he had lost his wife. She had
Mm.
died, I think, cancer.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and he was really kind of depressed, started playing pickleball, met another lady who had been widowed. They married, opened a pickleball facility.
Oh,
And you're like, and now they're making an impact. It's kind of like and now that I'm in business in pickleball, I'm meeting a lot of other people that are in different parts of their journeys as, as husbands and wives, as business leaders that have left other careers and now come into this sport. And it's kind of cool because I've met a bunch of people that are going through the same thing with kind of this big vision to help folks in different ways. And I don't know. I'll tell you one more. I actually wrote this down before we got on here. I texted these people today. Megan Fudge and Ryler DeHart. Do you know who they are?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're two of the athletes that we work with. I got connected to Megan and Ryler because when I coached at Florida State, Ryler came along a little bit later and was a tennis coach there. I don't know if you know, but he was a national team tennis coach. He's
Oh
elite.
no.
Um, and so we got connected. I took about 6 weeks and they're like, Erik, we want to work with you. I was like, okay. And so Megan says, Erik, you should come to the US Open and stay with us. I've never met them face to face.
Oh my goodness.
Now, if you don't know Megan and Riley, they live in like a like a RV, like, they drive around the country or they're all over the world right now, but they drive around the country and they're mobile all the time. They got two wonderful kids. So that this couple, Tim and Melanie, opened their home up to me in Naples. Never met them before. Megan and Riley are in the back on they had like a cement slab just for the RV. Then they had this outdoor or an indoor court they had built called Pickle on Third.
Oh,
Tim and Melanie let me stay with them for a week.
oh my
Wow.
gosh.
And out of that week is really where AIM7 launched. And I can point back to relationship after relationship after relationship that were established during that week that have led to where we are currently. And it was because of the generosity of somebody I'd never met before.
Through pickleball.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's so
huge.
amazing.
You wouldn't hear about that in bowling, would you?
No. No.
Maybe. I mean,
I mean,
I
who
don't,
knows?
I'm not in the bowling league, but
Yeah,
I imagine there are some really good
I'm
stories.
sure.
But I do love that pickleball is the one that we certainly are aware of
Mm-hmm.
that just creates a unique community. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
So, Erik, can you tell
Mm-hmm.
me? So, I'm thinking about getting the AIM7 app, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I play pickleball all the time. I don't want injury.
Yeah.
I want to prevent injury. I want to become a better pickleball player. What does it look like if I get the app? How will I be using it?
Yeah. So right now it's pretty simple. You download the app. We're on iOS only, so Apple only right now. You don't have to have a wearable, but if you have a wearable, we plug in all your data. We do a couple things. We talked about this stress resilience thing. There's two cool parts to AIM7. The first part is the pickleball stuff. So we have a little tab on there. It says um, before your match, after your match, off court. So you click before your match and it's like dynamic warm up. You click the button and you can say, hey, I have an entire court to warm up. I can just stand. I have a 5x5 space, or I actually can like stand up or sit down, and it takes you through a video warm up. And those exercises rotate constantly. It's very easy to follow. And we take you through a very simple 4-part warm up. And that's been demonstrated in the research to help prevent injuries and improve performance. So that's number one. Pardon me. We also have a really cool breath work tool you can do in your car on the way to the court that actually helps increase your arousal, increase your focus. Because sometimes you get off
Wow.
work and you're going to the court and you're a little drained. So then when you're done when you're playing, then you can click off court or after your post match, sorry, and has cool downs. So like 4 or 5 exercises you can do to stretch and help you cool down. Then there's another breath work tool you can use on your drive home that helps calm your nervous system down, helps return you back to normal. And then there's recovery recommendations from sleep to if you have a foam roller to all sorts of really cool stuff.
Oh, wow.
And then there's a button that says off court. You can click that. And we built a system in there because one of the things that pickleball players need to do is resistance training.
Yeah.
Resistance training will help strengthen your bones. It improves your balance. It's going to help prevent a lot of injuries. And so the World Health Organization recommends everybody gets 150 to 300 minutes of what's called moderate to vigorous physical activity. If you play 2.5 hours of pickleball each week, you check that box. They also recommend that you should do 2 total body strengthening sessions per week at the minimum. If you combine those 2 things, the literature shows it reduces your risk of all-cause mortality by about 47%.
Wow.
Jiminy.
I
Wow.
know. So we created a system in there where AIM-7 will make you a personalized resistance training program based off of your exercise history, your preferences, the equipment you have. If you've never done it, we can just start with your body weight, how much time you have. You can even adapt it daily. It's got videos. People love it.
Oh,
Then
wow.
we also have mobility exercises. So you can come in there and be like, my shoulder hurts. Dr. Kyle Richmond will take you through a really cool 12-week program where you watch videos. It's all done for you. We're really just getting to the tip of the iceberg. There's also mental fitness tools in there. So you can go to this section called Mind, and AIM-7's got mental fitness recommendations. It could be a gratitude journal. There's mindfulness sessions in there. It's like we basically tried to put the all-in-one tool together for you. And all of the really great researchers and performance psychologists, we have a whole library of videos like teach you how to do mindfulness. Dr. Peter Haberl, the former senior psychologist for the U.S. Olympics, teaching psychological flexibility. You can go in there and learn about nutrition. I mean, it's like, it's crazy what we put in this app. We're just trying to make it so a pickleball player could come in and be like, we hook them with pickleball, and then we can help you with your sleep, your nutrition, your mental fitness, all the things that are going to help you live a healthy and thriving life.
Wow.
And it's cheap.
Wow. And it's cheap. Oh my gosh.
So what would you think that would cost somebody per month?
$1,000.
That's a great price anchor. $7.99 a month right now. I think we're going to bring it up to $9 a month here soon, but it's really inexpensive because our goal is to like hit the masses, right? We want to make it equitable for everybody, and not just make this for like a certain specific group of people that could afford it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Under $10. That's all we need to know. Under $10. Wow. That's incredible.
Thank you for asking.
Oh man. Very exciting. Erik, my gosh, you have really turned your passions and your education and your experience into helping this world be a better place. And you're helping us as pickleballers be healthy in the process that we're having fun. That's remarkable. And you don't even have to play pickleball to use that app, I'm sure.
No,
it sounds like it can apply to anybody.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we want people to be able to find you and to find the app. So what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. aim7.com is where you
can... AIM7 with the number 7.
Yep. AIM isn't like you're aiming in a direction 7. You can download it from the App Store, can download it from our website. We have the Blueprint podcast, which is on every major platform. And then AIM7 is on Instagram, on Facebook, but Instagram is where most of our followers and our community is at. And you'll find a lot of fun and educational materials on there. And we've been partnering with so many people. We have some huge partnership announcements coming soon, which has been really fun because I can't spoil it, but we got some really cool stuff coming out pretty soon. And so this has been a blast for me. And I really
Fun.
appreciate you letting me be on the show. And I love pickleball. I love the community. If I can do anything, people can reach me on there or at Erik Korem on Instagram. They can also find me. I'm happy to help with whatever.
Awesome.
Right.
And I love your tagline, stay curious, stay consistent, and keep chasing excellence.
Yeah.
Well,
You listened to the
sir,
end. Thank you.
you've been doing that your whole life, and we love that you've inspired us to do the same. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
thank
much,
you.
Sharon Shelley. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. And thank you, everybody. Oh my gosh. You have just had a wealth of information given to you for free. And you can have this app for less than $10. Oh my gosh. And we love your podcast too. So the blueprint. Hey,
Thank you.
thanks everybody. We'll see you next week for another wonderful conversation. Bye-bye.
If you love our podcast, we'd be so grateful if you'd take a few seconds to follow or subscribe to Life Lessons from Pickleball. This ensures you'll never miss an episode and helps us continue these wonderful conversations.
On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, go to the show page and tap the follow button in the top right corner. And on YouTube, click the subscribe button under any of the episodes.
Thanks so much. Hope to see you on the court.